Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we are going to be having a look at the September 2022 Pasta developers, and this time it's time to have a look at the ground stuff. We're nearly caught up when it comes to all the Pasta developer stuff. Next we'll only have the October stuff to do. But this time there's a bunch of really cool ground vehicles, so it's definitely worth having a look at. And as always, if you enjoy the content, make sure to subscribe to the channel and like the video. The first vehicle is the M60A3 SLEP, or as it's known, the Service Life Extension Program. So basically what this is a way to modernize the M60 tank to try and bring it into the modern age. So if people wanted to buy it, it could keep up with more current MBTs. The changes that they made are pretty typical. They changed the 105mm M68A1 to the 120mm M256 and also upgraded its engine from a 750 horsepower one to a 950 horsepower one. They also added in an electric turret vertical drive instead of the hydraulic one which was there before, and also changed the FCS to a digital one, so therefore it's much more accurate and also rapid at its target acquisition. At the same time, it does get a bit of extra armor, some side skirts, slate armor to defend against RPGs, and also some applique armor on the front of the hull as well. So basically what you're getting is a beefier M60, very similar to the one that we have in the American tree, the event vehicle, the Turkish one, but this is specifically for, of course, the actual upgrade package. The next one is for Britain, and it is the Chieftain 900. This was a Royal Ordnance Factory's private initiative and was built following the cancellation of the British tank contract for Iran. It was based on the latest production Chieftain hull, the FV4031 Chieftain Mark V 3P, which featured, among other things, an increased mine protection and a larger fuel capacity. Two Chieftain Mark V 3Ps were converted by fitting the Rolls-Royce engine and the fully automatic version of the Chieftain's Tien 12 gearbox, very much as in the Chieftain 800, but this time the engine was rated at 900 brake horsepower, hence the name of Chieftain 900. Two Chieftain 900 prototypes were built in 1982. They were not fitted with real Chobham armor, but were mocked up with cosmetic sheet metal cladding to simulate the Chobham armor package. Both prototypes were exhibited at British Army Equipment Exhibition in summer of 1982. So it's basically had a ton of options as well that you could add to it. Solid-state gun control equipment, computerized FCS, Archer digital radios, L23 APFSDS, thermal sight, air conditioning, night sight for the commander, the Pilkington P Condor sight specifically, and infrared detectors, semi-automatic gear control, laser engineering hydro strut suspension, the engine uprated to 1,000 brake horsepower, and also bolt-on rubber track pass. So these were additions that the customer could select if they wanted it from the vehicle. But basically what you're getting is a Chieftain which had some better armor, but also mainly a better engine. Then we move on to the Type 87 RCV prototypes. So when it comes to this vehicle, there were two models of the Type 87 prototypes. Obviously, we have the Type 87 in-game already. The two models of the prototypes, you had an initial research prototype. This had access to a Rheinmetall 20mm gun, a stabilizer, and also a weaker engine. And then you had two later prototypes with an Oerlikon KBA 25mm gun, no stabilizer, and also a stronger engine. The production model Type 87, obviously as we said, is in the game, so the prototypes could easily be fit in, especially since they have some different components. The development of what would become the Type 87 RCV started in 1973 with the construction of a wheeled F6 prototype. Developed by Mitsubishi, the design was reworked and improved upon with the F8 prototype, finished in 1975. Also known as the Mitsubishi Model B prototype, this six-wheel armored car weighed 12.5 tons and used a 280 horsepower Fuso 8 DC engine. It was never ordered into production. In 1978, the company Komatsu Limited received an order from the JSDF to produce a testbed prototype to research and test the mounting of a 20mm autocannon. The chassis used was the now cancelled Mitsubishi Model B prototype, which was modified considerably to mount a new turret. This research prototype was developed in parallel with the B-78 infantry fighting vehicle and what would become the Type 82 command and communications vehicle, and as such the different projects influenced each other. Two turrets were constructed, designed to hold the required 20mm autocannon. The 20mm gun tried was the Rheinmetall 202 gun. This particular gun was taken from one of the Type 73 APCs, the Sub-22. The gun was stabilized. In addition, the turret had 60mm Type 74 triple smoke grenade launchers on each side and a coaxial machine gun, likely the 7.62mm Type 74. High-performance radial tires were also installed to give better off-road mobility. Finished in 1981, the purpose of this research prototype was to conduct tests on how well the gun mount, turret, hull, and suspension worked together to absorb recoil of the gun and maintain accuracy while firing. As the JGSDF hadn't built any modern turreted armored cars at this point, it was essentially a shooting testbed for them. After testing of the research prototype finished, it was decided to increase the caliber of the autocannon. Various guns were considered between the 25 to 35mm caliber range, with them eventually deciding on the 25mm Oerlikon KBA. At this point, the Type 82 CCV had been accepted into service, while the B-78 IFV prototype had been fully built. Development was separated into two stages, with two turrets being built in 1983 and two hulls being built in 1984. The two prototypes were fully constructed in 1985, with testing was done between 85 and 86. While the turret resembled the earlier research prototype, the gun had been modified to hold the large caliber autocannon, closely resembling the B-78's gun mount. The Type 74 triple smoke grenade launchers on the sides of the turret were kept, as was the position of the coaxial machine gun. The internal system of the turret was taken from the B-78, though unlike the B-78 and the research prototype, it did not mount a stabilizer. The hull was mostly similar to the research prototype on the surface, with some small differences such as the handles on the upper glacis, design changes in the upper headlights, tire attachments, and attachment points of the side mirrors. One major difference was the engine. While the research prototype used the 280 horsepower Fuso 8DC engine, the 1985 prototypes likely had the 305 horsepower Isuzu 10PB1 instead. This engine was, currently is, used by both the Type 82 CCV, which was already in production when the 1985 prototypes were built. And in addition, the higher performance radial tires of the research prototype were replaced with cheaper bias tires. After testing concluded, these 1985 prototypes were accepted into service as the Type 87 RCV. For China, you have the Antelope Tien Chien 1 TC-1 surface-to-air missile defense system. This is a point surface-to-air missile defense system designed to operate independently to intercept aircraft, UAVs, and helicopters, as well as protect critical infrastructure. Development began in 1995 by the Zhongshan Institute of Science and Technology to develop an air defense system capable of integrating with nearby air defense units to create a blanket defense, as well as operate independently with the capability of firing on the move. The Antelope soon entered service in 1995, providing the ROC Air Force and Army a universal SHORAD platform that still is in use today. The system is currently being replaced or upgraded with the new TC-2 Skysword II missile system. The system is mounted on a 4x4 light tactical Toyota truck chassis and includes targeting, guidance, communication components, and the TC-1 Skysword missiles. It operates the mobile CS-MPQ-78 fire control radar, a set of search and tracking radars that also operate with forward-looking infrared systems. Also included in the sensor capabilities of the Antelope is an auxiliary passive electro-optical tracker with a built-in laser finder. The Antelope, coupled with the mobile fire control radar, the CSMPQ-78, developed by the Chien Institute of Science and Technology, which is composed of a search radar, a track radar, and a photoelectric monitor. The search and track radars cover both medium altitude and low altitude airspace, with a distance precision accuracy of around 10 meters. The search radar has a maximum range of 30 kilometers and integrates also IFF system and associated 20-kilometer range real-time tracking radar. An auxiliary passive electro-optical tracker with a built-in laser rangefinder can be used at ranges of up to 10,000 meters in clear weather. The interceptor for the system is the Tien 1 missile, also known as the TC-1 Skysword missile. It was developed as an air-to-air missile in the 1980s for the Taiwan Air Force before also being chosen for the Antelope air defense system. It uses an infrared guidance system to intercept its target. The system is operated by a crew of 2, 1 gunner and 1 observer. The gunner is able to fire the system from within the cabin of the truck or from a tripod mount control console up to 70 meters away from the vehicle. The Antelope is able to launch while on the move and has a brightness adjustable console for night or low visibility operations. It operates successfully with both radar and FLIR systems and has its own self-contained simulator mode for training purposes. The Antelope has a maximum effective range of 9,000 meters and maximum altitude range of 3,000 meters. The next one is for France, and it is the Panhard AML 60 and also 60-20. Basically, what this is an AML with a 60mm main gun. It was designed to meet the needs of the Algerian War, since there was thousands of the Panhard made, and they were also sold all over the world. From 1962 to 1963, it supported all the different armed forces of the area. The term 60 corresponds to the armament. It had a mortar barrel of 60mm, and it was able to come in a few versions. You had the 67, which was with 2 machine guns of 7.5mm, and then 60-12, which came with a 12.7mm. Eventually, it was replaced by the ELC Serval light combat vehicle, which was also manufactured by Panhard. One of the things to note, though, was that there is technically one with a 20mm coaxial to it, which is kind of funny. And, of course, the 60mm is the CM60A1. This fired a heat round. Now we have the CV90-120 Ghost. This is basically a variant of the CV90. The CV90 chassis has been one of the mainstays of the Swedish Army since the mid-1980s, and ways to improve upon it are still being looked at into this day. The most recent of which has come to be known as the CV90-120 Ghost, which features the Revolutionary Adaptive, or ADAP-TIV, Active Thermal Camouflage System. This system is capable of changing the vehicle's thermal signature into anything from a civilian car to nothing at all. The vehicle also is more difficult to detect via radar and has even had its barrel and fume extractor optimized for increased stealth. So the CV90-120 Ghost features a revolutionary active thermal camouflage system that allows it to essentially shapeshift as a thermal signature into non-hostile objects, or even mask it completely. It also uses the system to signal the friendly vehicles and even display text. So that's pretty cool. Basically, that could be, a simple thing to add, I suppose. You could just be wandering around this CV90 and it looks like a car. Then we have the BTR-152 TCM-20. So the TCM-20 was an Israeli-developed anti-air system intended to improve the M45 quad mount from the M16 by replacing the 4 M2s with 2 HS-404s, one on each side of the gun. These guns are taken from obsolete Israeli aircraft that are being decommissioned. The system is operable by a single person, although there are usually loaders nearby to help reload the 60mm drums. The guns are elevated and traverse electrically, and the system can be mated to an ELTA ELM-2106 point defense alert radar for more accurate anti-air work. Each gun fired at 650 to 700 rounds a minute. While obsolete today, back in the 60s, this was a pretty good system that was successfully used in combat. The BTR-152 was an open-top APC designed by the Soviet Union in the late 1940s and entered service with Warsaw Pact members in 1950. Based on the ZIS-151 truck, it soon proved a popular item among Soviet client states and entered service with a lot of them. Included in the group were the Arabs, in particular Egypt and Syria, who received theirs in 1960 to 66 timeframe. During the 1966 Six-Day War, Syria and Egypt lost BTR-152s in large numbers to Israel, due to failure to properly coordinate combined arms tactics that often left BTR-152s away from their armored unit escorts, where they were easy prey for Israeli armor. In the range of 1,000 BTR-152s were lost. Israel, ever the practical bunch, pressed them into service for its infantry, even modifying them to suit Israeli needs, such as replacing the MGs with M2 Brownings. The open top, however, was a source of criticism by Israeli soldiers, who nicknamed the BTR-152 with the backronym Boz Tizrok Rimon, which is Hebrew for "come, throw a grenade," because the open top allowed people who were close enough to do exactly that. And indeed, some BTR-152s were lost to grenades or Molotov cocktails this way. However, this open top also allowed people to mount all sorts of crazy weapons on the BTR-152s. In this case, Israel mounted the TCM-20 AA system. This resulted in Israel getting a decent self-propelled anti-air gun that can be directed at unarmored ground targets. Unfortunately, it isn't clear for how long Israel used them or how many they stuck on the chassis itself. The next vehicle is for South Korea, and it's the Hyundai Rotem K2 Black Panther. This is obviously one of the very modern MBTs for the South Koreans. While South Korea's advanced K1 tanks already give them an edge over North Korean armor, the bulk of which were Cold War era Soviet designs with varying degrees of modernizations, T-55s, T-62s, and Chonma-ho series tanks, with some Pokpong tanks later added to the mix, the South Korean army decided to modernize further. In 1995, the SK Agency for Defense Development was given the task of developing an advanced AFV based on the best technology available at the time. An emphasis on indigenous technology was also prioritized, so they can export it without much difficulty in licensing agreements. They experimented with an unmanned turret, similar to the concept of the T-14 Armata, but decided to scrap it in favor of a manned turret design. Design work took around 13 years from 1995 to 2008, and the tank was formally introduced into the ROK Army in 2014. The K2 Black Panther is armed with an indigenously developed 120mm L-55 gun, similar to the concept of the Rheinmetall L-55, which is fitted with an autoloading system capable of firing up to 10 rounds per minute, with ammunition loaded in a 16-shell magazine and a total capacity of 40 rounds. The main anti-tank ammo is the indigenously developed tungsten APFS-DS kinetic energy penetrator, though for attacking unhardened targets such as personnel, unarmored lightly armored vehicles, or low-flying helicopters, the job falls to a heat MP round that is similar to concept to the US M830A1 heat MPT. Furthermore, this tank can also use an indigenously developed top attack anti-tank smart munition. The tank can fire this munition at a high trajectory comparable to a mortar or howitzer. Upon reaching the target area, a parachute deploys to slow the descent and give the millimeter band radar infrared radiometer combo sensors in the munition time to acquire targets, and upon acquiring the target, it fires an explosively formed penetrator in the top-down position, allowing it to attack hardened targets hidden behind obstacles or exploit weaker armor on top of tanks. Think something like the Excalibur or the Lahat, and you're close to how it works. As a final footnote, the tank can use ammo compatible with the Rheinmetall-built 120mm L55 gun. It is also equipped with a K6, which is an indigenous licensed produced M2 Browning HMD in an AA mount and a coaxial 7.62mm coaxial GPMG. So it has a ton of the modern firepower systems as usual. The defense capabilities of the K2 Black Panther are of course classified. It is claimed to be able to resist its own 120mm L55 gun frontally. ERA blocks are also present, and there are even nearer additions planned for the K2 PIP, which is the Product Improvement Program. It also has a soft kill anti-missile APS, as well as an advanced sensor array capable of detecting if the vehicle is painted, and fire off visual and infrared screening smoke grenades automatically to break any infrared radar optical signatures. The heart of the K2 Black Panther's tank mobility is a 4-cycle, 12-cylinder water-cooled diesel engine. First a German one, then an indigenously developed one from Batch 2 onward. These are mated to a German transmission system. From Batch 2 onward, Batch 1 used an indigenous transmission system that proved equally troublesome as the engine, with 5 forward and 3 reverse gears. The engine provides 1500 horsepower, which allows the tank to reach a speed of 70 km an hour on paved roads and 50 km an hour across country, for a tank weighing 55 tons. The compact engine design also allowed them to fit a Samsung gas turbine engine into the remaining space, which produces 100 horsepower. And it's intended to power the tank's advanced sensor array with the engine when the engine is turned off, allowing it to save fuel while minimizing the IR signature. So as you can see, the vehicle has all of the nice bells and whistles that you would want it to, and that is the last vehicle that was passed to the devs. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd like to thank Forge, Siegebreak, Carrion Crow, Nicholas Richardson, Elove Goat, Pyman, Winter Scientist, Merciless Reaper, Orange Tail, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Moxie, B. Young, and also Sem Arslan, Wilkski, Uncle Bean, Derek R., Bareen, Lafouche, and Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.